so and so. We cannot completely believe on those things. So let's be realistic and think from a very positive outlook that yes, you need to have at least 10 to 20 lakh rupees. Now, the obvious question is, even if you have this sort of money, so I gave you the maths, even if you start with an engineering job, I think within 4 to 5 years, you would be at max, you would be into a better position to do this thing. If you are able to have multiple sources of income, let's say some passive sources of income, you might reach that stage within just 2 years itself. If you are from a good B school or a good college, you might end up over there within just 2 years. It just depends which particular route you are taking, and markets are not going anywhere. So don't just think, oh my God, 4 years, everything would be lost. Don't worry about that, because markets are here to stay for the next 60 years. Yes, the earlier you start, the better it would be for you people. So the first thing is this. Second is, once you start, you should actually start with cash trading. If you have been doing part-time trade with futures and options for at least 2.5 years, then it's fine, consistently profitable. Then you can directly start getting into F&O. Otherwise, my suggestion would be start with cash. So I've given the capital requirement. So for me in particular, if someone comes and says 2 lakh rupees to become a full-time trader, no. 2 lakh rupees for practice, 1 lakh rupees for practice, even 10,000 rupees for practice is fine when you're learning as a part-time trader. As a full-time trader, of course, that won't be an answer. Yeah, but if you have some good backup, so let's say your parents are still feeding you, you have a house to live, you don't need to pay rent, you don't have any expenses, then of course you can go with like 5 or 6 lakh rupees also, but these are certain conditions and everyone is not that privileged. With that being said, now we would understand what are the various tools which are required to, when you actually think of becoming a full-time trader out there. First thing is, when you're coming into this trading profession, think it from a perspective of business. Think as if you are starting a business, because trading is just like a business. So you have to invest into a business. If you feel that just using a cell phone or a tab, you will be able to accomplish higher returns being a trader, it would be a fallacy. You need to understand, in a business, you need to invest. Likewise, in trading, you need to invest into a good laptop. You need to have good system. You need to have good processor. You need to have at least an 8 GB RAM, a fast processor. Now you would ask, why a fast processor? See, if you're a swing trader, you probably don't need all those things, because then speed is not something you're looking for. But if you are a day trader, if you're someone who's looking for speed, it's just a matter of seconds within which the trade might skip in front of you. So it's very important that you have a very fast processor and a very good system at place. So that's something which you need to have at this thing. Now, investing in business doesn't mean just this thing. You need to have an isolated room. So let's say in your house particularly, and you're trading from your house, it's very chaotic, then it might serve as a distraction for you. So I would suggest that either have your own room, have some blockers out there to block the noise from outside, have a good headphone so that you can focus while listening to the music or whatever feels better to you. Remove all the distractions. You need to invest in learning also. You need to keep on purchasing books, might go for some trainings and webinars in order to upgrade yourself. So this is the kind of investment which you need to do into a business, and which is particularly trading. Then you need to invest in a good power backup, in the sense you need to have either an inverter, generator, whatever. Inverter is a better option. So you need to have, even when talking about internet, at least 40 Mbps of net is required. Some of you might argue that no, I know some people who are doing a 2G mobile phone and all those things. We are talking about a serious full-time profession. I'll tell you my example. I've got 3 backups of internet. Yes, I have 3 backups of internet. I have electricity backup. I keep everything in place because, of course, once you scale, you need all these things in place. Even I have backups for laptops as well. So it's very crucial, very important. It's very crucial and important that you have all these things. It appears that suddenly the rains have actually come over here while recording. But anyways, so this is something which you really need to look upon. Then power backup is something, system backup is something which you really need. And very important, when you are actually venturing into becoming a full-time trader, it's very important that you also have done your due back testing. Now, what is back testing? Back testing is basically you go through last 8 to 10 years of data. You see whether the system which you have created, the trading setup which you have created is giving you adequate results, proper results out there. If it isn't giving you those kind of results, then ideally you should keep on going back and forth on the drawing board. You should keep on trying what would work, what would work. Now for this, if you're a programmer, a lot of people can do it on Python. That's the preferred language on which a lot of people do. If you're not someone from a programming background, you should actually outsource. Outsourcing would cost between 10 to 25,000 depending upon how is your negotiation skill and what is the kind of setup you have created. But it's very important because backtesting gives you a conviction that, okay, I'm confident enough to do this thing. And once you scale up really well, you can have in-house developers also to work on this system. Some people are a little reluctant that, oh my God, if I give my system to someone, he'll make a lot of money. That doesn't happen because what's in you remains in you. And second thing is you can do a certain tweak. So for example, if your system requires, let's say a 40-day or a 50-day moving average, you can simply say that use 10-day moving average, and then later on you can actually play out with the macros. Something of that sort can be done, but backtesting is very important when you are ultimately planning to become a good full-time trader. So for those people who think that, okay, I don't have any money, what to do? Then it would be a little bit of hard work. You need to do manual work out there. Even for backtesting, let me tell you, you sometimes need to purchase data. So for example, our cost used to go around 6 to 7,000 an annum for buying data. True Data is one vendor. Disclaimer, we're not trying to promote any of that sort, but just giving an example. But between 1 to 2,000 rupees per month, you should keep aside for all these things. This is something which you should keep in mind. Now, talking about the don'ts. There are certain things which you should not do when you're planning to become a full-time trader. The first thing is you should keep aside your ego. You should admit this fact that market is supreme. You cannot go and change the markets at any point of time. You need to understand that it's not that market went wrong. It's you who is going to get wrong. So sometimes we keep on blaming, oh my God, the market is nasty, market is this, that. It's your stop loss which you didn't pick. It's your position size which went wrong. It's your risk management which you didn't take care of. So first of all, leave aside your ego. And there are times in the life of full-time trader. I'll tell you my example. So while I was doing my post-graduation, so I'm really grateful. I got the taste of it really early. Just imagine while doing my post-graduation, there was speculation that I had already taken out my entire fee of the year, and to rest all those rumors, yes, the rumors were right. I had actually made decent amount through trading. I still remember almost close to 5 to 6 months, almost every day, the minimum amount I was making was 12 to 15,000 per day. Yes, you heard it right. The only problem was I was taking huge amount of leverage, and as I mentioned in the start of the session, futures used to come around 15,000. So you can just imagine for intraday, the margin was even lower. So what happened is that I used to take all those leverage, and I never used to do a work on this position size and everything. The ego had come into my head that now I don't need to do anything and all that sort. One fine day, the market turned around. I lost, I guess, within just 2-3 days or something, I lost 40% of that capital. And that is when I got the reality check that, Abhishek, you should not let your ego ride your head, even if you are having a winning streak for so long. So you need to understand these things based on experience. I'm telling you that don't let ego ride over your head. Let your winners do ride the winners, but not the ego. Next is never stop learning. Even at this point of time, I keep on upgrading myself. What exactly is happening into the markets? What are the new tools available and all those things? Because markets are like amoeba. They keep on changing their shapes every now and then. And it's you who has to keep in pace with them if you want to sustain into the market. Then relations. Yes. Make sure that even when you are trying to become a full-time trader, at least in the initial years, relations are going to take a toll of you. The reason is, for example, you may not be able to give a lot of time for your family because you would be more focused in how to, establish yourself as a full-time trader, get a balance and all those things. Your friends circle would shrink. You will simply start cutting off a lot of those things because you want to focus on the screen. Plus, you may not be that interested to talk about the new movies and all as much as you would be interested to talk about stock market. So it's very important that right from the beginning, when you are planning to become a full-time trader, you already have these conversations with some of your friends, the closest ones, and your family members that I am probably planning to become a full-time trader. If they are very supportive, it's fantastic. But if they don't support, try to find out a midway where you can convince, because support at some point of time would be required, specifically when you will have multiple drawdowns. And finally, don't ever believe in what movies show. So you must have seen all these movies of Leonardo, for example, The Wolf of Wall Street, and then Wall Street 2, then Bazaar and all those things. And they portray a very different type of picture for full-time traders. Those lavish lifestyles, smoking cigars and all those things. Let me tell you that all those things which you see out there is actually not real. A lot of it could be really fake. So one needs to understand that instead of being attracted towards those things, you should understand that most of the full-time traders, even Radhakishan, the money and all, are usually humble, down to earth, and only focused over their work and of course relationships. So my understanding over the past decade has been that whatever these movies are showing, of course they want masala and they want a good kick out of it. People should enjoy those things. So that's why they're trying to show this thing, but that's essentially not the reality. So with that, we have come to the end of this webinar. So let me just conclude based on some things, some features based on my experience, which can eventually help you all out. First of all, should everyone become a full-time trader? Of course not. There are other professions also. But if you're really passionate about looking into stock charts, if you're passionate about numbers, if you're passionate about the macro, micro data, then of course you should consider becoming a full-time trader. Second, because you're watching this thing, probably you're very interested in becoming a full-time trader. Please make sure that you have a backup capital and you don't compare your first year with the 10th year of another trader whom you look upon to. So the person in the 10th year might be earning in crores, but doesn't mean at your level, at your capital, you will be able to do. Sooner or later you would reach there, but you need to understand that those people also started from the level where you are at this point of time, and they didn't directly jump to that level. It took a transition of 10 years. So it would take time to reach those levels. If there is a possibility you might reach earlier, I'm not saying that, but give yourself time. Third, please try to set up realistic expectations. A lot of people get this unrealistic expectation. I'm going to make 200% every year. I'm not saying you will never be able to do that. There would be years, kinder years with leverage, you will be able to do that. But consistently making that, it won't be that practical. So for example, 2020, 2021 was one such year where people, even those people who used to make 10% could make 50% on those particular years, but doesn't mean that every year they will be able to do that. Markets are kind at some point of time, and that's why I say markets are supreme. You need to focus on those things. The next aspect you need to understand, I talked about relationships. So please make sure that you keep some time and efforts in nurturing your relationships at that point of time, because that's very, very, very important. The next thing which you got to understand at that point of time is that once you decide your mind that, okay, now I want to become a full-time trader, I'm going to do this thing, make sure, this is one important area which a lot of people miss out, that you are also engaged into some physical activity during the day. Maybe you hit gym, yoga or dance, because as a full-time trader, most part of your life is going to be spent on your chair. So if you're sitting, sedentary lifestyle is resulting into a lot of cardiac issues and all of these things. But these can be managed because trading is stressful. So it's make sure that at least 45 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, you're doing some sort of activity, maybe playing around in the evening or doing something, because at the end, there's no, no value of whatever money you earn unless you don't have a good health to enjoy all those things. And another thing which I particularly face, and I'm guilty that I'm not working on it, is that because you are going to spend a lot of time on the screen, it could be straining on your eyes. But then there are some solution, for example, those blue screens or something, those specs actually come. So make sure you work on those things. So I hope guys, you liked this webinar. You got an insight that what all capital is required, how a full-time trader should look upon. To all intents and purposes, this full-time trading career is absolutely fantastic. But to cover a lot of other aspects, it would require much more time. But if you want that I should be taking more webinars, then make sure you let us know, and then accordingly we can plan. Hopefully you got some value. So keep learning, keep growing, and keep trading.